how happy I am to have you. I'm like honored to have you. I'm already a huge fan of your work, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Well, there is so much to get to, but the first thing I want to talk to you about is obviously intuitive eating. I want to. We have a lot of women on here who the scale is constantly on in their bathroom. They're constantly on it, right? They're on that scale. They're working that thing. They don't realize that they're standing on an enemy every single solitary day. They're checking it day in and day out. And I hate that for them. I'm sad about them. I know that they're locked maybe and chained up to that kind of culture. And so I think intuitive eating may be an answer for them, but you got to start us off at square one. You got to start us off with what it is, how you got into it. Can you tell us the story of that?
Absolutely. Well, should we start with how I got into it, or what it is?
Please.
With how I got into it. I used to be an elementary school teacher before I went back to school to become a nutritionist. And I just love people and I loved these little kids, but I wanted to do something more with my life. I didn't know exactly what at the time, but I did know that I wanted to be someone who could sit in a room with someone and talk to them about eating, but it wasn't quite defined yet. But what I didn't want to do was talk about weight loss, because even then, and I've been doing this work for 39 years now, even then, I knew that the whole idea of dieting and trying to manage or control weight was just a very negative and uncomfortable experience. Yeah. So I wanted to work with kids with developmental disabilities because that was how I was trained when I did my traineeship. Didn't work out that way. I just kept getting referrals from doctors who would send me patients with high blood pressure, high blood sugar, high cholesterol, and they would just say, have this person lose weight, which is really not the answer at all. So I struggled with what I had learned in graduate school, which is just put somebody on a very, very nice little plan. It wasn't a diet. I would tell them, if you want a cookie, it's okay. But here I was telling them what to eat, and it never felt right. And my gut always tells me when things aren't right. So that's way back in, in the 80s. And toward the end of that decade, I would say I was starting to read some of the literature out there about non-diet. Non-diet, what does that mean exactly? Tell people they can eat whatever they want. Now here I was, I had a Master of Science degree in nutrition. How could I tell people to eat whatever they wanted? Because I knew different foods had different, nutrient value. But then I started to read all the psychology about it. And I was really into psychology. I was in therapy myself and I loved it. And I realized that there's some very deep psychological reasons why diets don't work. And that led me to decide that I was going to write a book about it. At the same time, my co-author, Evelyn Tribole, was also thinking about the same things. And we ran into each other in the hall. She was working out of my office one day a week, and she looked kind of unhappy. And I said, what's going on, Evelyn? And she said, I'm trying to write this book with a psychologist, and she doesn't know how to write. Well, I knew I was a good writer, and I just took that moment and I said, this is it. I said, I'll write the book with you, because I knew I was so interested in the psychological parts. And that was the beginning of writing that first book. The first edition of Intuitive Eating came out in 1995, really long time ago. And Evelyn and I were the first dietitians to have ever really written a book about non-diet approach. At this point, we're in the fourth edition that came out last year, and it's called an anti-diet book, not non-diet, but anti-diet, because we're extremely against the toxic nature of diet culture and what diets do to people. So what is intuitive eating? Okay. Yeah. So it is a self-care process that incorporates 10 principles, which are not rules. They are simply guidelines to help people learn how to become more in touch with their inner signals, start trusting their inner voice. We're all born with all the wisdom we need to have to know how to eat. If you're ever around babies, you know that when they're hungry, they will cry. And if they're fed, they're little happy people. And then when they're done, they turn their little heads. You can't give them more food than their tummies want. And when they start eating solid foods, they know what they like and they know what they throw on the ground. So intuitive eating is about getting us back to that innate, inborn wisdom, which is taken away from us by diet culture. And my favorite definition of it is a dynamic interplay of instinct, emotion, and thought. So what does that mean? Okay, so that refers to the three parts of our brain that have evolved over time. The primitive part of the brain, which is right at the brain stem, is called the reptilian brain, and it comes from the era of dinosaurs. And it is instinct, pure instinct. The dinosaurs didn't have feelings, they didn't have thoughts. They just had the instinct to survive. So they went after food. We have that also in our brains, but we don't eat on instinct alone, because as time went on, we developed a part of our brain called the mammalian brain, or the limbic brain, and that's the center of emotions and social behaviors. Well, we all know that our emotions affect our eating. They affect our hunger, they affect our fullness, they affect all of that. So that's part of intuitive eating. And then eventually what differentiated humans from other mammals was the neocortex, or the cognitive part of the brain. So intuitive eating incorporates instinct, emotion, and thought. And so if our instincts are off because our emotions are affecting them, or if we are not feeling well and that affects our instincts, we use that cognitive part of the brain to help us through our emotions and let us know that we need to eat and nourish ourselves anyway.
I have the journal right here in front of me. And I'm going to read the 10 principles. Some people are saying, well, what are the 10 principles? And I can tell you right now, we most certainly do not have time to go through all 10 of these principles. Lord knows I wish we did. And I would love to have Elise on at a later date and really discuss and get to the heart of these. But just to read you guys what these 10 principles are. Principle 1 is reject the diet mentality. Is it okay, Elise, that I'm reading these?
Well, it's okay, except that in our newest version, we turned some of them around and we renamed some of them. So I kind of, do you have the 4th edition of Intuitive Eating?
Oh, not with your picture on it, girl. No, I've got this one.
Well, that's the workbook that goes along with Intuitive Eating. But there have been 4 editions of Intuitive Eating. And in fact, I have you were talking about journals in the beginning, Melissa. On June 1st, I have an Intuitive Eating journal coming out.
Oh, I want that. I want that.
Yeah, and it's subtitled as Your Guided Journey for Nourishing a Healthy Relationship with Food. It's great. There's lots of room to write and be creative in that. So how about it?
Oh, she froze up a little bit. Uh-oh. I don't know if she's freezing up for y'all or just me. I'm so sorry, you guys. She has frozen up for me. I don't know if she has for y'all, but she has frozen up. I know, I'm feeling it too. It was just getting so good. But I wanted to read these principles to you. She has them, though, better than I do, and she has them renamed. And so I really, really do not want to lose her. So maybe David can kind of text her or see if there's some kind of issue on her end. I don't think it's on our end. Elise, if you are listening to us, you froze up on us for some reason. Everything was going perfectly. And then she froze up. So we're going to try to disconnect her and reconnect her back. But in the meantime, I know that they have renamed some of these, but I just want to give you just a little bit.
There I am.
There you are. Oh, hi.
I didn't do anything. Melissa, I didn't do anything. I didn't freeze it myself. It just stopped.
Let me just tell you that it's called The Technological Gods, and they're always out to get us. Always.
Exactly. So I was about to text David. It wasn't
I will
me.
tell you this, Elise, if it's any this should boost your confidence. The minute that you froze up, like everyone started going, no, it was really good. So I won't go into the 10 principles because I do realize that over time those things are changed and reworded. But I just, heck, if I even just talked about or just showed them that even principle 1 that you guys were working on way back when is just to reject this diet mentality.
Yes.
I want my friends here today to understand that. And so many of them are like, light bulb moment just now. Heck, we were born knowing how to eat. We were born as babies knowing how to do this. What has happened to us, Elise?
Well, it wasn't called diet culture back, 27 years ago now when we were writing this book, but it is called diet culture. And diet culture is pervasive, and it's actually truly been around for centuries. I could go into we don't have time for it, but I could go into the basis for diet culture, how it began. Now you're frozen, it looks like. Are you frozen? No.
Oh, no, I'm here.
Okay, so diet culture worships thinness, and it equates it with health and moral virtues. And it promotes weight loss as a means of attaining a higher status. And so those in our world who don't meet that standard are really oppressed. Diet culture promotes, in my mind, oppression. It oppresses people who do not fit the standard. And my goodness, we're all DNA programmed. We all are genetically programmed to be a certain size and height. Nobody walks around saying, well, I'm 5'4", but today I'm going to work on being 6 feet tall. We all accept that our height is genetically predetermined. And there's so many things about us that are, including our set point range weight, which is a bit of a range. Mm-hmm. So diet culture gives you the idea that if you don't fit into that thinnest, culturally thin ideal, there is something wrong with you. You're bad. And it can only make people, it's traumatic. It's actually toxic. It can only make people feel horrible about themselves when they can't attain that. And dieting itself promotes weight gain, by the way. 98% of people who lose weight on diets gain it back, and 2/3 of them gain even more weight back over time. And it's just it's, as I said, it's a very traumatic experience. And weight cycling, which happens all the time. People go on diets, they lose weight, they gain it back and more, and they go back and forth. It used to be called yo-yo dieting. Weight cycling is very detrimental to one's health. Not one's weight, but weight cycling.
Okay. I want to tell you really quickly something that you just said. I think you just said 98%. Was that 98% of people that lose weight gain it back and then some? So let me give you just a little bit of backstory, and to those who are watching today. So here's how I ever even found out about intuitive eating. A girlfriend of mine invited me to come into her home once a week, and she was going to host a little book club, and the book club was going to be intuitive eating. And and this was literally several months back when I really started deciding that I was going to change my life in 2021. I was going to change my weight. I started going to this, but immediately the book and the journal they're like they don't care if you lose weight. They care if you heal with food. They don't care about your weight. Just like Elise was saying, she doesn't care that I'm 5'8". She don't care. She don't want to change it. She don't want to change my weight. She wants to change my mind and my heart. She wants to change this depression. So I'm doing this journal with them, and there's a part, and it may not even be in the newest journal coming out. I don't know, but for me, it was quite eye-opening. It's this little chart, and you have to fill it out, and it's what diets have you been on, and then you list them. And I listed Atkins, keto, Weight Watchers, Nutrislant. I listed every one of them. And then it said, how much weight did you lose? And then how long did you keep it off? And then how much weight did you gain back or whatever? You guys, I am in my mid-40s. I can't tell you how many diets I've tried. And there was a section where you just write, did I gain the weight back? Yes or no? And the answer was yes on every single solitary line. I gained the weight back. Let me tell you something. That is not just true for Melissa Radke. That is true for anyone who is oppressed by this toxic culture. So I'll go home and I tell David, I ain't doing this. Now, I ain't doing this no more. I'm out to lose weight. I want to lose weight. And this book is not telling me how to lose weight. This book is telling me how to get healthy. And David said, what a terrible thing that would be. What a terrible thing that would be if you didn't lose weight, but you made peace with food. But you got healthy up here, And I couldn't let it go, Elise. I couldn't let it go. Like it was something in my heart, that I'm working against a system that is not working for me. I'm pushing a boulder up a hill. Right. And so talk to us a little bit about that. Talk to us. It's not about losing weight. People that go, I have so many women right now saying, I put it in my Amazon cart. I want this book. But this is not about weight loss.
So let me say this, Melissa. I have great compassion for people who want to lose weight because they're programmed through diet culture to believe that everything in life is going to be wonderful. So I don't judge anybody who says, I want to lose weight. What I want people to look at is how is it affecting their lives to go on diets, to put their focus on waiting until they've lost the weight to, you know, go after the job they want or get the relationship that they want, or go out and just take a walk or go to the doctor just for a, you know, for a checkup. So let me start with that. So I don't want anybody to feel shamed because they want to lose weight. What I want to help people understand is that there's no sustainability to diets, and there's no way that they can reprogram their genetically, you know, programmed weight. So what can you do then? You know, so the point is making peace with food, really learning how to look through a lens of satisfaction, enjoying your food, helps you eat when you're moderately hungry. It helps because food just tastes better when you're hungry, not when you're not hungry. And it helps you make peace with stopping when you're comfortably full, because you get to eat that food every day for the rest of your life. There are no forbidden foods. So what happens? People end up being very tuned into their bodies, and their bodies are happy and their lives are happy because they've stopped. Well, you were saying, you know, that rock, the stone up the hill, or the rock up the hill, or whatever it was called. I mean, they start to realize that life is so much more than what their size is, that they are so much more than what their size is. I mean, we have so many wonderful qualities within us and so many miraculous things our bodies can do at whatever size. You know, we don't think about it at all, but, you know, there are zillions of times a day that our heart is beating to keep us alive, or that we're able to breathe, thank God. And, you know, take a walk if we are not. Now, there's so many people who are also disabled and they can't do that, and they find ways to live their lives the best they can. We have to promote a way of acceptance of all people, of all, you know, all types of people, all sizes of people. And so I think it has to start with understanding that you've been programmed to believe that you should lose weight before you can start your life, and to understand that it's just made you miserable. As you were saying, you lost weight, you gained weight, you lost weight, you gained weight. And I like to help people figure out the things they really want in life, and let's start getting them right now. And that includes a happy relationship with food and their bodies.
Elise, is this book, is it out yet? The newest edition?
Well, okay, the 4th edition of Intuitive Eating came out last year, the one that I held up and showed you. My journal book is coming out June 1st, which is just 2 weeks from now. You have the workbook, you have the Intuitive Eating Workbook. I also wrote an Intuitive Eating Workbook for teens. And in that book, there's that same chart you're talking about. However, my adult clients love it because it brings them back to the years, for most people, when their eating issues, when they got disconnected from their bodies and they started dieting, began. And I have seen people have such revelations about the beginning of this. What influenced it? Was it something a doctor said when they were going through puberty? Like, oh, you know, she should, they would say to the doctor might say to the mother, oh, you really should have her watch her food because after all, she's gained too much weight. Well, this little girl needed the weight to get her first period. Or it might have been a coach, or it might have been a parent or a grandparent. It helps you look at what was it that triggered that early in your teens, sometimes in childhood. And so there are a number of books out. There's actually a card deck coming out on June 1st as well. It's called 50 Bite-Sized Ways to Make Peace with Food. And so it's a deck of cards, like a tarot deck. So there's many ways. My journal is one that's more creative. The Intuitive Eating 4th edition is really the Bible. I mean, this is the one that tells you all about the 140 studies, and there are more now, that have validated intuitive eating scientifically as an evidence-based process for physical and emotional health. What does that mean? I mean, evidence-based means that studies have been done, scientific studies, research studies, to show that when people, well, if they've already always been intuitive eaters or they come back to intuitive eating, they have better self-care, they have better sense of themselves. They're physically, they have, you know, better blood levels of different components. They have much less of overeating or binging. I mean, binging is what happens after you diet. After your diet is restrictive. So you're deprived. So when you haven't had what you want and you fall off the diet, fall off in quotes, is, people start to feel terrible about themselves and they go for the things that they weren't allowed to have. When you make peace with food, which is one of the major principles of intuitive eating, it means that all foods are emotionally equivalent, meaning you don't feel good about yourself for eating the broccoli and bad about yourself for eating the green jelly beans. It means that you feel the same way about yourself regardless of what you eat. You're just tuned in to what feels good, what nourishes you, what's satisfying, and there's no struggle anymore. I had my own bout of years of dieting when I was young, and I would restrict and I would binge, and I would restrict and I would binge. And I bless it because it really led me to go back to school, as I said, and become a dietitian and a nutritionist. And I haven't had an issue. I'm 76 years old, and I haven't had an issue with eating for 40 years.
What does your eating look like? What does a day look like?
Oh gosh, what's a day? Well, I have different breakfasts. Some mornings I have oatmeal with brown sugar and peanut butter and bananas and milk on it, and some days I have toast and with butter on it and yogurt with berries and granola in it, and some days I have waffles and eggs with cheese in it. I mean, I have really nice breakfasts every morning, and I always have fruit. I always have milk that sustain me until, if I get a little hungry before lunch, I might have a piece of a bar or a cracker or something. And then lunch, I often have chicken, salmon, vegetables, fruit, and then I always have cookies, always after lunch. Always. I mean, cookies are part of my life. And dinners are some sort of casserole. Last night I had macaroni and cheese with broccoli and some vodka sauce on the macaroni and cheese. And then I always have frozen yogurt afterwards. So,
and you're eating these things not because they're part of a weekly menu that you made for yourself or a plan. You're eating these things because tonight, pasta with broccoli or macaroni and cheese with a little broccoli and vodka sauce, like that sounds good to me.
Yes, it's always tuning in and attunement with what my gut is telling me that I feel like, what's going to satisfy me, what am I going to enjoy.
Well, the cover of your book says, there's a line on it that says, rediscover the pleasures of eating. And that stuck out with me because here's the problem for me. The problem is that I believe that I love the world. I love the earth. I love everything God gave us to eat. I love the things that grow out of the ground. And and I love food. I like it when you fry it or grill it or broil it. I like food. And there is pleasure in eating. And I don't understand why that it has to be a taboo. That why food, if given to us and given to us plentiful and in great ways with vodka sauce, has to make me feel bad. And I'm tired of that. I always say when I talk to women a lot of times about parenting or whatever, I'll say, don't be so hard on your kid. The world is cruel enough. Okay. Right. The world is cruel enough. And I don't need to feel any more shame in my life over what I eat than how I already feel. And it's how we rediscover that, though, that is mind blowing.
Okay. So, Melissa, from this moment on, no shame ever for any food choice. It's ridiculous to feel bad about yourself for what you feel like eating. Intuitive eating is based on studies of toddlers who are given free range of all kinds of foods. And what they end up finding is at the end of a week, they pretty much get everything they need to grow and to be healthy. So we don't have to worry about having perfect meals, having perfect days, having anything like that. No shame. So how do you get to pleasure? You let yourself know that you've been programmed from a very negative force. We live in a very puritanical culture, by the way. Most other societies really love food, and they love all the different foods. I mean, you would never go to Italy and have somebody say, oh, pasta's bad, gluten's bad. Never. You wouldn't go to France and have somebody say, oh, you should never have a croissant, or you should never have French fries. I mean, we in our culture, we are often, as I said, equating it with moral virtue. Let it go. Let it go. Right. Look at food through a lens of satisfaction. And I want to go back to that for a moment, because if I can give your listeners anything today, it's that if you think about satisfaction, you are going to find ways to talk nicely to yourself about your body. You are going to look at ways to talk openly about food, that all foods, as I said, are emotionally equivalent. Because if you're eating and you think something is wrong or bad and you should not have it, you're not going to get any satisfaction. If you're eating when you're not hungry, by not staying present is a very important part, so that you can notice what you really feel like eating, so you can notice what your appetite is. You can notice when you're hungry. I've often said to clients, would you eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on your way to your favorite restaurant? And they look at me and say, well, of course not, Elise. And I say, well, why? And they say, because it would ruin my appetite. We know intuitively that a meal is going to taste better if we're a little bit hungry. But if we're in primal hunger, which is when you're, well, that instinctual part of your brain, that primitive reptilian part has red alert, organism in danger, then you can't stop eating, because the brain releases chemicals. One of them is called neuropeptide Y, and releases hormones that just get you to eat as much as you can and as many carbs as you can, because it wants to survive. That's the part of your brain that's keeping you alive. So you don't want to start eating when you're ravenous, because you can, you go through the whole breadbasket without even tasting it.
Right.
You want to eat when you're comfortably hungry. And when you start to get comfortably full, a feeling comes up. I wrote a paper called The Sadness of Saying Enough. That moment when you have had your satisfaction has been taken care of, your hunger's been taken care of, you're comfortably full, and you can keep eating if you want to. That's a choice. You always have that choice. But if you do, you might not feel well. If it's late at night, you might have indigestion during the night. So you say to yourself, I need to stop. Well, there's a sad feeling that comes up. Even for me, when I've had a delicious meal, I feel sad, but it's momentary. You get up, you do something else, and you get to eat again whenever you get hungry. So I eat 5-6 times a day. I'm not going to hold that sadness forever. When you're on a diet and you have restricted amount of food, that sadness can be grief. That sadness can be horrible sense of deprivation. And then, of course, you can't stand it, because nobody can. Dieting is a predictor of weight gain.
I just want to tell you that this was better than I had hoped it would be. Okay. I knew that it would be good. It was better than that. I'm going to send you a present, like a, I don't know, a sweater or something. So I can talk you into coming back on here and being another guest, so I can dig deeper, because we knew that you had about 30 minutes of time and that was it. And so I want to let you go, but I want to tell you that I think what you're doing is, I don't understand why more people don't talk about it. I don't understand why we know the words Jenny Craig. We know the words Atkins, but we don't know the words intuitive eating. And I want to help make that more common. And I think it would be healing for women. You've been wonderful.
Thank you. Can I say one last thing?
Yes.
I think the reason that intuitive eating now has gone, quote unquote, viral, because it's all over. I'm being interviewed and doing podcasts every week. Why is that we as women, and I think your audience is women mostly, we are sick and tired of being told what size our bodies should be and being told what we're allowed to eat. We're tired of it. We want to be released from it. And intuitive eating is the way. And it's amazing. I mean, take my word, all these years, 40 years of eating intuitively and feeling wonderful and free. I haven't been on a scale in, well over 20 years. If I go to the doctor and they say, go get on the scale, I say, no, I don't need to. There's no reason. So.
Oh my God, you're amazing.
And I would be delighted to come back.
Okay.
You don't have to send me a sweater. I would be delighted to come back.
Okay. And also, can everybody in the comments just hush about the fact that she's 76? I mean, they have not stopped talking about it. Someone said, did she say 76 or 46? And as a 46-year-old, could I please tell you that is offensive? Just shut up. Okay. Yeah, we get it. She looks great. Elise Resch, thank you so much for being here today. All you got to do is log off. David will help you log off, but I just thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Take care, Melissa.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You guys, there is honestly so much I want to say. I think that was, I could have gone on and on and on with her forever. And I'm like, look at me. My eyes are getting teary. But I do think that some of us, we really have been chained to the scale for just far too long. Just far too long. And I don't think we were ever intended to live that way. I know that we weren't. And we always ask you guys at the end of the day to tell us what your aha moments were. No doubt there were several today. But the fact that we were innately born knowing how to eat, that as children, that we knew when to push food away. I'm done. We throw it down on the floor. Like she said, like we're done. We get up and we're done, and we've lost it. And I believe that we've lost it because we've lost our way in this culture, in this diet culture that has told you for so long that what you're doing is wrong because what size you are is wrong and who you are is wrong. And I hope today, and I want you to purchase her book. I want you to get her journal. I want you to do whatever you want to do if you want to know more about that. Someone asked this question, and when she froze up, I was just about to read it, and then she was able to come back on. Somebody said, but I want to know what the 10 principles are. Now, like she said in her newer stuff, she's reworded these a bit, but just to kind of give you a little bit, I mean, I think this is going to inspire some of you and give you some hope. I'm not trying to sell her book. I'm trying to sell her method. I'm trying to sell us on this, okay? So listen to what the 10 principles are. Principle 1, reject the diet mentality. Principle 2, honor your hunger. Principle 3, make peace with food. It's one of the reasons why I asked you to buy your triggers last night and set it on your counter and stare at it. There were so many of you who said, I can't do that. I couldn't do it. I want you to make peace with it. Okay? Number 4, challenge the food police. Number 5, feel your fullness. Principle 6, discover the satisfaction factor. I think that our signals aren't going off. I think that we don't even read full. Like that receptor isn't working in a lot of us. Principle 7, cope with your feelings without using your food. Principle 8, respect your body. Principle 9, exercise and feel the difference. And principle 10, honor your health. Honor your health. I'm sorry, my cat is in the backyard running towards me with a significantly large animal in its mouth. So it's a little off-putting right now. But hey, she's honoring her health. So anyway, I really hope that you guys will give some real time to think about this intuitive eating and what this lifestyle might mean. I think in the future, I think I'm leaning towards this, and I just want you guys as my friends and my community to know that. I want to talk to you quickly about 2 things, and I'm going to hand it over to David. I want to talk to you about your heart work today. So please listen up. Today, I knew this day would eventually come, and you knew from day one, if you listen closely, that the day would eventually come that I would ask you to do this. Today, you're going to have to do some writing. Every year, David and I go away for 3 days. At the end of every year, every December, we go away for 3 days, and we think about what our next year is going to look like. And we base that off of a book that Michael Hyatt wrote. He's a leadership expert, and it's about charting your future, charting your success. And in one of the things that he asks you to do in this book is he asks you to write down, he wants you to write your perfect day. And he wants you to write it with your future self in mind. Okay? What your perfect day would look like if your marriage was whole. If you'd gotten the job, if you'd lost the weight or gotten healthy or lost this much weight, but felt so good in the bathing suit. I mean, what would that day look like? And he wants you to be very, very specific. I thought about reading y'all mine, but it's really specific. But I'll be honest with you. It starts off with, well, I sleep in. I wake up a little bit late, like around 9 o'clock in the morning. I put my feet on the ground and my knees don't hurt. And I'll hop out of bed because I smell bacon cooking. And I know David's downstairs with the kids. We're at the beach for the week. We're at a condo for the week. I run downstairs because you know what I can do now? Run up and downstairs. And I run downstairs and I eat breakfast with my family. And then they want to go out to the beach. So I put my bathing suit on. And I don't worry about what kind of bathing suit it is. And I don't worry about what I look like in it because I feel great. And my body feels great. And it moves wonderfully. And I move with it. We go and we play for hours out in the sun and the sand until I want to take a nap or eat a big lunch. And so I decided to do both. I eat a big lunch and I take a long nap, and then we get ready for dinner. And then after dinner, I even wrote this. Are you ready? After dinner, David and I come home and we have great sex. That may sound inappropriate to some of y'all, but I'm happily married for 26 years. And as a woman with a bigger body, I want to know that that's okay. That's a good day for me. That's a great day for me. It's a really good day for David. But that's a great day. It will be hard, but it is your future self. And I want you to think about what she wants. I want you to think about what she does. I want you to think about how she wants to feel. I want you to think about what her mind is like and what she's focused on. I want you to think about what brings her joy. I did not ask you to write about what she looks like, but if you want to add it, you can. But that is your heart work tonight. Write it, don't post it. You do not have to post it. It is personal to you. In fact, I suggest you fold it up, put it in an envelope, lick it, close it, and put it in your nightstand drawer. This is for you. This is your future self. This is our current self, but we have a future self. But we got a ways to go. We've got a growth zone that we have to grow through, like Natalie said on day one. Okay? So think about your future self and what that perfect and beautiful day looks like to you. And then we're going to work to get there. We're going to work to get there. I have heard over and over through emails and through comments that so many of you want to know what's next. And we live in a world and in a culture that wants to know what's next. When we order the appetizer, we want to know what we want for the entree. And once the entree's done, we want to know what's next for dessert. It's not just that way with food, by the way. When I'm out with my girlfriends and we finish dinner, I want to know what's next. Where are we going now? We want to go see a movie. What are we going to do? My kids definitely always want to know what's next. You take them to one activity, they want to know what's next. But when you find something like we have found this week, you want to know what's next. What happens after these 5 days? I want to tell you what's going to happen for me. When I wrote an article back in January called Burn Your Boats, and it garnered so many thousands of responses, I put at the bottom, my name is Melissa Radke. I want to lose 93 pounds. Today I burn my boats. And I meant that. I don't know now that I want to lose 93 pounds as much as I want to run down the stairs because David's cooking breakfast, or I want to play in the sun, in the sand with my family because my knees don't hurt. Really now it's about that. But I am going somewhere. And more than anything in my life, I want you to go with me. I want to create a community where this happens on the reg. This happens on the regular. We discuss, we grow, we challenge. I saw someone a minute ago make a comment, and before she could probably even before that thing had hit send for 3 seconds, women were writing back, stop it. Don't talk about yourself like that. I don't like that. You reframe that thought. That's not who you are. This is the scale is not who you are. That's community. That's what that is. That's what getting in the boat and taking the land looks like. I invite you to join me to do that. It won't be easy, but it is urgent. Okay? It won't be certain, but there will be confidence. We must move with urgency. We must put feet on our faith. We must come together in a partnership and say, we are going to take this land, and I'm not doing it by myself. And I don't care if 3 of you go with me or 3,000 of you go with me. I don't care. The more, the merrier. But I want to change my life in the next 12 months. And more than anything, mainly because I have FOMO really, really bad, I want y'all to do it with me. I believe that we're going somewhere. Okay? Gigi Park and Tammy House, Melissa Baucom, and Jennifer Hernandez, you were not meant to do it alone. You can try, Jamie Jones. You can try to do it alone, but you will not get as far. Vanessa Barker, you will not. Kimberly Millen, I've been praying for you since day one, girlfriend. I've been praying for y'all specifically. go there with me. Okay. This is what David and I do for a living. This is what our business is. You are our business. Your marriages are our business. They're our careers. Making sure that you're the best parent for the longest possible time that you can be is our business. Okay? That's what we do for our career. You. I love you that much. I don't know if anybody's told you today. I think you look hot as F. I think you look great. Okay? I'm so sorry, Jesus.